All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. I'm Kassidy Warren, your host, and I'm here with Brian Pate. He's a realtor, broker, house flipper. He's got an incredible story that I'm really excited to get into and talk about. He's been doing real estate investing in some form or fashion for the past 5 years, owned some different businesses, but excited to get into it. Welcome, man.
Thanks for having me, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come connect with cool people.
Yeah. It's been good. Yeah, this is the first episode, so
Yep.
this is gonna be fun.
No.
So tell me, why don't you just kind of give me your story and your background so everybody understands where you come from?
Yeah. So I grew up down in Federal Way, Washington. Pretty rough growing up. Was the first person in my family to graduate high school. Was homeless at 17. Had to work my way out of it. Uh, Kind of changed my life around at 21. Put myself through community college. Realized school wasn't for me when I got out. Got into sales, and then from there got into entrepreneurship, and just kind of haven't looked back since then.
So you were homeless.
Yeah.
So how did that happen?
It's just kind of like not the best upbringing, and I think it just went the way it went. Like it was, just not a lot of family support, or people, they had their own view of things. Like basically my dad at the time, so it was me and my dad. I was raised by a single dad. Like my mom left when I was like 7 years old. So me and my dad are like this, like my whole life. My dad had this girlfriend for like 4 years, who was a drug addict. She was addicted to pain pills. And so like I would come home from school and she would just get into it with me because I would like hang out at my house, you know.
Yeah.
And just one day she just started screaming at me and I lost it and I didn't like do anything, but I yelled at her back and out right at 17. I just graduated high school, then like a month or two out on the street in my car. So put all my stuff in a bag and just went. And I didn't talk to my dad for like 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what's it like to have to survive in your car on the streets? Like what's that like
It's cold.
out here in Washington too?
I mean, honestly, man, it's really hard. It's really sad, but then there's like it's a choice of growth or, for lack of a better word, like death, right? You can let it. It's like a defining moment. And for me, I was like, well, what if I became really successful? Like I have nothing to lose, so what if I did it and proved everybody wrong? So for me, it was just trying to find the right word for it, but I'd say very like defining time. Like obviously, it was extremely hard. You go through every emotion, but then you're more grateful for things that you get. Like I had a girlfriend at the time where her mom would let me stay the night some nights a week, and I would pay some rent every month. Um, but it really, you just become super self-sufficient. You really learn about like who you are, because you're just so isolated.
And so what kept you away from drugs or like going the other route?
Definitely, I would say just watching everyone in my family, like what it does to people, and just really like I always had this innate belief that I was going to be something special, and I just couldn't not do it at that point, or at least not saying I am now, but I couldn't, have tried, look back and not try. I'm looking at examples, like looking at my mom, what it's done to my mom, my cousins, like everyone in my family, they're in AA or in recovery or they can't be around that stuff. Or so you just grow up. I mean, imagine seeing everything since you're like 3 years old. It scares, to be honest, it scared the shit out of me. Like
Yeah.
I didn't want to touch it because I was like, if I touch it, maybe that's it, right? So that was the biggest thing for me. It was just the fear of what I saw, what it actually does to people.
And so I heard you say that you always believed that you were going to be something special or
Yeah,
something great. And
yeah.
so you didn't have the examples around you.
No.
Where did that come from? Or
Delusion. I mean, honestly, if I really sit and think about it, I probably got that from my dad because my dad would always, I mean, this is something he did now, even realize talking to you, that was great. He would always tell me, like, you're the man, like, you can do it. You're a leader. So it's probably just from being instilled in my dad since I was like 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. And it's just like, I mean, my dad was a man. So, like, anything my dad
Yeah.
said, I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I've probably just got it from my dad.
Okay. So then how did you How did you get out of the homeless situation or living in
Yeah.
the car?
Yeah, so I really had to become like super resourceful and just pretty much work all the time. And I used to tell myself this thing that probably isn't the most PC thing today, but I used to tell myself like if I work like an immigrant, there's no way that I can't be successful. So I just challenged myself to just outwork everybody around me and just work like an immigrant. So that's what I did. I got a dishwashing job at Olive Garden, became a busboy, and I was like 17. And then I went and got another job at Fred Meyer working in electronics. And I was working maybe like 50, 60 hours a week until I could save up a little bit, and then worked my way into serving. And then when I got into serving, worked 2, 3 serving jobs. So then, I was making decent enough money to get an apartment, put myself through school. And then when I went through school, graduated, I was still serving, got a job at LA to get into personal training, but the base was like $500 a month. So I would still serve. So my schedule was like 8 to 5 p.m., 7 to 11 p.m., 5, 6 days a week.
And you were how old at the time?
23.
By the time you hit LA Fitness?
Yeah.
Yeah.
22,
So
23.
from 17 to 23?
I was working 2 jobs.
Two jobs.
6, 7 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And school in that time.
Yeah. And had you started any businesses at that point or done anything?
No. I loosely got into stock trading and I got way more into it later. But at that point, not yet, just because I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
It's broke.
Yeah. And so how long were you living out of your car for?
Probably about 6 to 8 months, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said that you felt like you had to work like an immigrant. And I grew up in the Bay Area where there's a lot of Hispanic immigrants in there too. And I had that same sort of realization when I was younger, watching the difference between some people that grew up one way versus some people that came across the border or second generation or whatever.
Yep.
And then even when I got to college, it was the same thing. I remember there was this like Hispanic group, like club, and they invited me in for something at one point, and I just remember their commitment and dedication to learning and growing and graduating with honors, and like this was their freaking thing. This is their opportunity. They're going to do it versus maybe some other groups that, it's the norm or you're coasting or whatever it might be. And so I totally get it, and I've always respected. Well, anybody that works hard, but like to really think about people that have come across and immigrated here to do that. And similar to your story, you were on the street, you didn't have your mom, you didn't have your dad, like you had yourself, you had your girlfriend, and then somehow you rewired your brain, like I think you said, to be able to convince yourself you were delusional.
Well, I was pretty much delusional. I was like, right when I got here today, when we were talking, they're like, well, what made you? I was like, I was crazy. Because you're just surrounded by all this chaos with no example. But yeah, literally, it was that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It really changed. Something just clicked for me that made me just rewire everything. Like, you grow up, everyone's like, don't, have a backup plan, or you should think for the worst, or, that's like in our family pretty normal. Things don't work out, so be prepared. Like that, standard sayings of like, good things don't happen to us. Like, oh, you should be careful. Like, don't take that, like they're all so conditioned to things not working out. They almost basically constantly manifest it in their life.
That's what people
they do.
That's what people don't realize is by saying that stuff out loud so often. And I get it. They've experienced it. This is the hard thing about creating your reality. The hard thing about manifesting what's out in front of you is that if you haven't done it, or you don't realize that you've been doing it because of the things that you've already said and what's being said around you and to you and the stories that you've been told your whole life, that is manifesting your current reality.
100%.
But when you can recognize that you can change that and have different actions and different words around doing that, that's when manifestation actually starts to show up in your life different than what you've experienced before. Because when you're 17, 18, 19, you have no idea that everything that's being said to you is your reality. And that's how it's been created, is because of the stories of your family and your generational trauma and all that sort of stuff. And so what was it like? Like, were you doing anything in particular to like create, other than like working hard and good 2 jobs?
No, I'm trying to think back because it's so long ago, but now I remember. I would write like weekly habits, like weekly goals, and I had to like train myself, like go to the gym 4 times a week, check it if you do it or not. Right. I still do this today, so I'm surprised I forgot. But I like ask out that girl at the gym, check it, you do it or you don't. Like all these things that I wanted in my life, I would write it every Sunday. I would sit down at my little desk in my little studio apartment, and I would write it on this piece of paper. And if I didn't, or I did food prep, do your homework, these things, if I didn't do it, I sat there and I was accountable. I put an X through it. If I did it, I put a check. I put all these papers into a box for like 2 years. And then I would write my yearly goals every 2 years. And there was phases of my life when I started becoming successful where I stopped doing it. I'm doing it again, but I put it all in a box, and I actually still have that box somewhere. I think it's in my car, in the trunk of my car.
Yeah, which is appropriate, right?
Yeah, but I did that for years, and I think that's what started to condition me. And I think you're right. And even now, talking to you, I didn't realize I was manifesting those things, but that's what I was doing.
Yeah, and we've only known each other a little bit, but this is something I talk about a lot, is journaling and writing it down.
Yep.
I have I am statements, which is similar to just like, these are the things I'm going to do, right? Versus I wish I could do this, or I want this, right? Yeah.
You're claiming it. Yeah. When I got into real estate, I worked at one brokerage and I switched to another one, and it was kind of like it was called Rexmont, but Wolf of Wall Street is like Oakmont. It was basically like Wolf of Wall Street while the market was super hot with all these brokers.
Yeah.
And they taught us journaling, and one of the things we would do is I am this, like I will make X, I will help X, I will do X. And you do it every day.
Yep. It works.
It does.
It works. And so like if you're out here listening to this and wondering why you can't get ahead, or you can't be successful, or your things aren't working out for you, are you simply writing things down and doing the things that you say, and making and keeping the commitments that you make to yourself,
or
right?
at least owning if you're not.
Exactly. Yeah. Even being honest with yourself about saying, oh, I said I was going to do this and I didn't. That was a big realization for me long time ago, around this, a shift that I had where I kept just agreeing to go to events or agreeing to go to different things. But then I would bail and I would say, no, I'm not doing it. And so for a long time, I just didn't even commit to anything that I couldn't commit to at all. And that actually was a good first step. So if you're out there and you keep bailing on agreements, or you keep not showing up or whatever, like just don't even commit to anything. Only commit to what you can actually commit to.
Or be more selective.
Be more
that you're like, you wouldn't miss.
Exactly. Yeah. And then once you do that and you subtract and you're only doing the things that like you can commit to, then you're gonna have more confidence in what you can actually do.
You don't think you're a flake.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It builds the confidence. Like, so if you keep not committing or failing on your commitments, that affects how you feel about yourself.
Yeah, because you're instantly like, I'm someone that doesn't do what I say I'm going to do.
Yeah.
If you don't do what you say you're going to do, you can't really do anything.
That's right.
Good.
That's right. Yeah. All right. So then you, LA Fitness, you were doing sales. What happened after that?
Yeah. So I was, got into sales, personal training there. And honestly, like my first month, I hated it. The schedule was crazy. I didn't think I was going to be successful in it. But then kind of like everything, I'm like, well, I just need to do what I need to do. Ended up becoming like a VP in the company within like a year and a half.
Yeah.
So then I went from like just being like the guy, you go to LA Fitness and they're like, hey, you get a training session. The guy's like sitting behind the desk. He's like, when are we going to go?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That was me.
Yeah.
So I started there. And then when I got my own club, before I became the next level, I told myself, because the company they don't care about you. The trainers, they don't care about you. No one really cares. I care about people.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, I can do really well in this if I build a system for myself where the product actually delivers. So that's what I worked on. I instantly worked on hiring good people, training good people, creating systems for clients to get served, and onboarding systems for like when you sign up for LA Fitness, the handoff smooth, like it's genuine. So all these processes, right? And then I took it from like the 700 club in the country to the #1 club in the country. And that was the one on 148th in Kelsey Creek.
Okay.
We went from like $20,000 a month in EFT, which is electric funds transfer, to like 35, 40,000 within like 6 months. So we doubled it.
Yeah. In 6 months because of you.
Yeah. Well, yeah. In the systems. And then I'm pretty sure they still use the sales systems that I create, like what they draw on the paper while they talk to you. I'm pretty sure it's the same stuff that I came up with while I was there.
Okay.
But when I got there, I was the only one selling training. I had 4 trainers. By the time I left, I had 4 full-time managers, a head sales trainer at that one gym, and then 15 trainers that were training full-time in the course of like 6 to 8 months.
And so then when did you transition to real estate?
Yeah. So I left that company. I hated it. Started a couple companies before that did pretty well, left. And then I got into real estate, I think the end of 2020, like October 2020 is when I got my license.
Yeah. And what did you start in? Because you're
Yeah.
doing right now, you're doing wholesaling, you're
I
flipping.
got my first development too, brokerage, but I started as a broker. So I had some money from the business I had started before real estate, wanted to learn how to invest it, but I didn't want to just throw it in there. So I was like, what's the best way to do it? Learn real estate. How do you do that? Work in real estate all the time.
Yeah.
So I started as a broker, full time at the end of 2020. And I think I did like 10 million my first year with no sphere, just
Wow.
hustling. Yeah. And I think I've done, I don't know my exact numbers. Someone can look me up and tell me I'm wrong, but I think I'm around probably 50 million in 4 years as a broker.
Wow. And so what you mean by that is that's how much you've lent.
No, how much I've closed, like transactions.
Yeah, closed
Just
transactions.
as like
Okay.
a broker.
Okay. All right. And so then when or what changed about being a broker into
Yeah. Well, my goal when I got my license, the whole reason for being a broker was so I could be a full-time investor. So basically all I was doing constantly is learning. Like first thing is every client I ever had, I saw the opportunities to really help somebody. So I'd be like, okay, let me help you make a really good financial decision and also like a personal decision for a house that you love. But you talk them out of bad investments, you put them in good investments, they make money, and then it just kind of compounds. So I learned by helping my clients with their retail like home as a good investment, and then meeting investors, learning the investment game, and then to where I could finally have enough cash and experience to be a full-time investor.
Okay.
And now I made that transition at the end of last year. So now I pretty much just work for myself and my own investments, but I still do retail with people I really like to work with.
Yeah, so you kind of build up a network.
Yeah.
You use that to learn, just like LA Fitness, you were
Yeah.
learning sales,
Mhm.
even though you didn't like it.
Yeah.
And then,
like learn the zonings, learn the plays. I mean, real estate's such a complicated game, but then when you know it, it's like, you can kind of do whatever you want.
That's right.
If you're good or if you can find the right opportunities.
That's right. Like we transitioned from Airbnbs into now commercial
Yeah.
boutique hotels,
Which
right?
is super smart.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
and the language is really the same,
Mhm.
and the process is relatively the same. It's a
Yeah.
little bit more detailed. There's a little bit different nuance. There's cap rates, which there aren't
Yeah.
really cap rates in
Yeah.
in residential. But it took me all of a couple weeks to really kind of learn the language.
Because you understood it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You understand the transactions. You
80%.
understand the players.
Mm-hmm.
Right, you know that the broker is like the realtor, and the difference is that they're working both sides, which
Yep.
can be a benefit.
Yeah.
You just have to go find your lending. We do interest only on commercial because of the type of deal that we're doing. And then when we were doing Airbnbs, we were working DSCR loans.
Yep.
So you're just kind of transitioning the knowledge that you have from one area to the other.
Yeah. It's like a different playbook, but the formations are the same.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
you knew that you wanted to invest.
Yeah, I just had to learn because it's like you don't even know most brokers right now, right? Like they don't even know what wholesaling is, or they don't even know like off-market real estate, or like the average person that has no idea about off-market real estate. Like you could even buy your house off-market.
Yeah.
They have no. So
And you could seller finance.
yeah, you have to learn all these things. So think like if I just went in, I didn't know anything about real estate when I started. My family doesn't even own a house, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy this flip. Like it's a nightmare. Why would I do that?
Yeah.
And that's nothing wrong if you're doing that now. I'm just saying that it's not the way that I would go into stuff. So I wanted to have my knowledge so strong and learn from others. It's kind of like what we talked about earlier, where I have partners in everything I've done so far. Because if you can, leapfrog me, and I can bring value in another way, then that relationship's going to work really well.
That's right. Yeah. And I think for a lot of people that are wondering how to start, number one, I always say like you got to surround yourself with people that know more than you do. You want to be the dumbest one in the room.
Yep.
You want to be the one that is just like asking really great questions
Mhm.
and is learning from everybody. You add value in another way.
Yep.
Probably the worker bee, the gopher, like whatever it is. And then the other way is you can actually start partnering with people. But the way that you partner with people is you get into the rooms or you get into the areas. And so how did you get into those rooms, or how did you meet your partners and get involved with them?
So it's pretty funny. The first brokerage I started at was Whisper Real Estate in downtown Bellevue. And I took a meeting with someone to get into real estate. He worked at that brokerage, so that's how I got into that one. And my partners were wholesaling downstairs. And I didn't even know what wholesaling was.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I was just a dumb broker,
Yeah.
So I would watch that and I'd hear the numbers. Like, $100,000 assignment fee, 200,000. I'm like, you make 200 grand on one deal? He's like, yeah. I'm like, You know, Jonah Hill in that movie, he's like, I'll quit my job.
Yeah.
That was me. I
Yeah.
was like, let me come work for you. I'll quit. You show me a check.
Yeah, Wolf of Wall Street. He was on the payphone, right? Yeah, he was on the
That's how I
payphone.
felt. Because I was like, what? I've never heard of that, right?
Yeah.
And so he was like, no, we don't have room. So I went to the other brokerage, which I said is kind of like Wolf of Wall Street. And then I did really well. I did like 7 or 8 million in sales in like 4 months over there as a new broker. And I would call him every week. Like, hey man, let me come work with you. Hey, let me come learn. And he was like, no, I don't have an op. No, I don't have an op. And then finally one day he's like, all right, you did how much? Yeah, you can come work for me.
Yeah.
And then so I basically started, and I came down. And it was a kind of like a little basement. It wasn't nice. There was 2 desks, and he just gave me a list of houses with phone numbers and didn't tell me any script, anything. He said, just start calling people.
Yeah.
All right. And then we didn't look back ever from there.
And so for those that don't know what wholesaling is, like, what is it? Or
So wholesaling is basically where like you go to buy a house, you put it under contract, and then you sell that contract to an investor that wants to like actually execute the contract. But the value is that you go source this deal and you negotiate a deal that's good enough to where there's room for you to make a fee and for them to make money on the flip.
So typically you're selling to flippers, right?
Yeah,
so
flippers, developers, to builders, to just real estate investors. Like, hey, I have this house. Here's the contract. I'm going to buy it. But if you pay me 50 grand, you can buy it.
yeah, because if something is turnkey done, if a house is completely renovated already, you couldn't necessarily wholesale that because there's no room,
margin.
there's no margin.
You need a margin.
Yeah, so basically what you were doing is you would talk to the owners. These are off market.
Off market, yeah.
Off market.
Done a couple on market, but it's hard in Washington because everybody's on.
Yeah, everybody's on. Yeah. And so you have to go cold call, right?
Cold call, everything. Text, mailers, all that.
And then you have to talk to somebody who didn't even know you. They didn't even know that they could sell or were willing to sell. Maybe they thought about selling.
Yeah.
And then you essentially have to convince them to enter into contract.
Yeah. I mean, our closers now with the wholesale company now, it kind of blows my mind because we do it all on one call now, virtual. So like, think of it this way. Like someone calls your house from the Philippines and asks you if you want to sell your house. And they ask you, you're like, yeah. And you answer some questions. And then my guy calls you the next day and then takes you through an 1.5-hour phone call. And when you hang up, you're signed. Like that blows my mind.
And so what's your close rate on that?
Like that we actually close on those houses.
Yeah.
Sell them pretty high. Like
or even get it under contract with the.
It's not as high. It's maybe like 1 in 15 leads will go under contract.
That seems pretty good though.
Yeah. We have pretty good systems and standards. And then we sell probably like 80% of them.
Yeah. So 1 in 20 gets sold.
Yeah. Well, 1 in 20 gets signed, and then of the one signed, about 80%.
Okay. So 1 in 15. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Interesting. And so then when you sell, when do you get your fee on wholesaling?
Yeah, you get it. You can get it up front upon assignment or at closing. Like the bigger fees is usually at closing because the hard money lender most of the time is financing those.
Okay.
But if it's some like, and not to say this isn't a lot of money, but like 5, 10, 15, you can usually get those upon assignment of the contract where you like assign them as the buyer.
Yeah. Okay. So if it's a smaller fee, then the investor would put up.
They just put it into their earnest money.
Into the earnest money, and then you get it.
If you have 5,000 earnest money, they'll put 20 in to you, and you just keep your fee and put the earnest money into escrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so, how did you learn all of this? Because you just rattled off. You rattled off a lot of stuff. No, right? And so
that's what I mean. Like, and I don't mean to be like too much language, right? Because I'll do that. I'm such a nerd. Like I love learning. That like I'll get in these conversations and I'll use all the lingo that I know and people don't know it and I don't even realize it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, This is what it. But my partners, so I learned from them. I would work just like I worked before I've worked as hard of when I was homeless for the last 10 years now. I'm 31 now, so the last 11 years, just as hard. Or I probably work harder now than I ever have, just because of the opportunity that's there and how much I'm learning. And I don't know if it's like to distract me from trauma I've never dealt with. And I'm just like a psychopath or something, but I just like, I'm constantly wanting to learn and grow and grind. So I learned it from partners. I've sought out mentors like Thatch Wynn's a direct mentor of mine. I've done Inner Circle for 12 months. James Daynard is a direct mentor of mine. I took his flipping course last year.
Okay.
Like everyone thinks like you today, you're like, you've only been flipping for a year. It's like, I've been literally flipping for like 12 months.
Yeah. And that's how I found out about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was through your social media and flipping.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the thing that has kind of popped off for you.
Yeah. It's working. It was really hard at first. Went through like every emotion. I think at one time I had like five 5 projects at once with obviously I'd done like 2 flips before, no construction experience. So I'm like phones ringing left, right. I'm 5 in the morning. I'm crying, like
Yeah.
mental break. But then you work through those things and you learn and you grow. And then now I have all the systems to where it can scale.
Yeah, we're value add on the Airbnb side and then
Mhm.
obviously the hotel side, but one of the reasons that we switched out of Airbnb was because we were still doing basically we were doing luxury flips.
Yep.
And we did 9, and by the 5th one I was like, okay, I've learned everything that I need to learn.
Yep.
But I kept going, we kept going, and then now we're transitioning out, but it was because of like literally the trauma of
Yeah.
dealing with every contractor, every mistake, the phone calls, and
Constant.
we were sleeping in a lot of these Airbnbs, right? Yeah,
yeah.
because you're making the money work.
Yeah,
and
that's rough.
yeah, and so to wake up at 6 in the morning with the
Yeah.
contractor knocking on the door, coming in, everything's dusty, we're sleeping on the air mattress.
Your
Like
wife's a trooper.
she's absolutely incredible, absolutely incredible, and we did that a couple times, more than a couple. But like I could totally resonate, and but you get through that.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah,
It's funny because you don't think it's like that. Like when I got into flipping, I was like, "Oh, that's easy." Like, what? They're flipping that? That's easy.
yeah, you just make it new. You just make it new.
Yeah, no, it's so much, and you learn so much, and it's like now, I would probably never take on more than like four projects at a time. Like
Yeah.
all moving at once, just because there was that time that I had 5 and it was a nightmare, I had like PTSD.
Yep.
But doesn't mean you can't. But they're way more work than people think.
Yeah, and I think do that, like get through it,
Yeah, learn.
earn your stripes a little
Yeah,
bit,
definitely.
right? You almost have to learn that lesson a little bit. If you can do it without learning it, great. But
Yeah.
a lot of times it just has to be done. And I don't know if this is true for you, but
Yeah.
our flips kept getting bigger.
Yeah.
And so it was, we started smaller and then we just kept buying
You're
bigger.
like graduating.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
then it all kind of scaled up.
Yeah.
And so then that's when we learned about our strategy around the luxury flips. And so tell me about the houses that you're buying right now and why you're buying those types of houses.
Yeah, so I have a pretty specific buy box. That's something I learned from Dana. It was like, know exactly what you're buying, don't skew out of it. It's kind of like your profession, right? Like you do one thing, do it really well. So I kind of cap around like 2,600 square feet. I don't like to be bigger than that just because of, there's multiple levels, there's multiple, like all the plumbing, all the electrical, all the paint floor. I've just noticed that my ROI doesn't hit the same as the property gets bigger. And then like, let's say it's in not as good of a neighborhood. Well, now your cost is 2x and your ARV's already there. So basically Ramblers are my favorite, like 1,500 square feet. If you can get a 342 Rambler, I'll buy that all day at the right price. Cause you can turn those in like 6 weeks. But I'd say anything like Snohomish, King, Pierce County, 2,600 or under square feet, no additions, don't want to deal with permits unless it's something existing.
Yep.
Any type of condition, as long as it's not like fire damage. It's pretty much everything that we're buying.
And so what I'm hearing you say is you're trying to find the house that's going to give you the least amount of headache.
Yep. For the most return.
For the most return. Yeah. And so you said ARV, which is...
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I did.
No, it's okay. Yeah.
It's how much you can sell the house for when it's fully fixed up.
Yeah.
So like market value when everything's like to the nines.
Yeah. Because your business model on flipping is you buy, well, you tell me, but you buy at a discount, you spend a certain amount of money, and then you sell it for market value.
Yeah. Basically, we're looking for houses that aren't financeable or that wouldn't. Even sometimes like wholesaling gets a bad name, flippers get a bad name, but there's a lot of times where I buy a house and they're netting more than they would on the market, just because of fees and brokerage fees and the repairs needed and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But also, do we get really good deals? Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought.
No, it's okay. So what price range do you, because I'm curious, I have my opinions on this, but what price range are you buying in? And then what are you targeting typically?
I don't want to go above like 1.5 to 1.6 on the resale value. Below, it doesn't really matter as long as this resale price is there and the market's there. But obviously I don't want to go out. It's more of not outside my area. So when I'm buying, I like to buy acquisition like 400, acquisition like buying the house.
Yep.
400 to maybe like 9 max.
Yep.
In that range, and then resell from 6, 7 to like 1.5, 1.6.
Okay.
I have a flip in Newport Hills, Bellevue right now. That'll be done in about 3 weeks. That will probably be the biggest like price point flip I've ever done. I got it for 9, which was that's probably one of the best deals I've ever gotten in my life.
Yep.
We put 135 in, and it'll probably sell for like 145 to 1.5.
So there's a big hit for you.
Yeah, it'll be
Yep.
like a 350 net.
Yep. And then because the reason I ask is because we were doing the smaller ones, and then as we got into the bigger ones, I realized that we're doing about the same amount of work.
Yep.
Same amount of time, same amount of effort. I mean, it's a little bit different each house, but your dollar goes a lot further.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm spending the same dollar on a $1 million house as I would be on a $500,000 house.
I get what you're saying now. I missed the conversation.
No. That's
100%. If you play bigger and the market's the same, it's just about where you buy it.
Exactly. It is about where you buy it. And then you got to control your rental budget a little bit too. And so how do you, this is really interesting to me because I don't understand.
I'll nerd out on flipping all day.
Yeah.
It's been my life for like 12 months.
Well, because here's what I've always thought of flipping is you're basically doing this flip to go pay for the next flip.
Yeah.
Like you're recycling money. And so like, how do you make money on flipping?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on your model. So like my model, sometimes I finance my own flips. A lot of the times I'll bring on capital partners. So I'm cashing out every flip and then I'll bring in new money for the next project. So like basically what I do is I pretty much bring all the ingredients together, create a package, and I'll bring it to investors or capital partners where it's not necessarily like wholesaling a flip project, but I'm basically just crowdfunding with one investor to where they'll have, an X% return on their cash in this amount of time, or they can have a profit share and it's their choice and it's presented in the proposal.
Okay. So you basically, at some point you had some seed money and I can ask you about that.
Yeah.
But then each deal, you keep your profit and then on the next one, you raise money or bring in a capital partner and you're not necessarily putting in your own money.
Yeah, I do on some. But I mean, we had one deal in Burien this year that just everything went wrong. We lost like 90 grand.
Yeah.
Me and my partner. I mean, it hurt.
Yeah.
But we're still really good friends. He's still my partner. So we made it through that.
And he was capital partner?
We both were.
Okay.
So we both put in our own money. And we lost actually I didn't have my money in that one. He did. And then my friend put in his money. So they both lost about 50,000.
Yeah.
But we're going to do a flip this year specifically for them where we'll use capital partner money, but we're going to give them the company profit to make them whole.
Okay.
But yeah, that was a nightmare.
So tell me about that because I don't think there's a lot of people that understand how important it is to take care of your investors.
Oh man, you have to, because at the end of the day, like for me, my name is everything. So like, if you give me $150,000 and I lose it, I'm not like, all right, man, well, have a good life.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, I want to make sure everyone feels good and we're all making money together. That's the point of it. So like I would even, like worst came to worst, I would go find a deal, get it under contract, run the whole project, use my own money to fund it, not make a dollar on it to pay someone back. Like that's just kind of the name that I want to have, right? Like in this business, your reputation is everything.
Yeah.
Because if I go to raise capital and I lost someone 150 grand, it's only going to be a matter of time before I can't raise capital.
Yeah, it's a small world. We were talking about this.
Yeah.
It's a real small world where people don't like losing money.
No.
They don't mind talking and telling people who lost their money.
No.
Yeah.
And no one wants to lose money.
Yeah, and so when people are talking about you to their other investor friends or whoever they're working with, you want them to say, even if you did lose him, hey, yeah, he lost me, but he made me whole on this other deal. And actually, he made me even more money than I would have.
Yeah,
had.
That's what we're going to do on this project, too. We'll make content on it. But yeah, if it goes over, they keep it. I just can't live doing people dirty like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, reputation's everything to me.
Yeah, reputation, 100%. And cool. So I know that you're working on a Marysville. And for those that are listening that aren't in Washington, Marysville, and these
north, about an hour.
Yeah.
We this one sold, so we sold this flip already, but we got this off market and it was like a fentanyl drug house, like 20 people living in it, and it was actually the daughter of the seller, and he couldn't get her out. She was the
wow
addict, yeah, and I think she had a hustle we didn't know about. She was charging these people rent and not paying her dad rent.
Yeah.
So I think she was cash flowing like $5,000 a month on
Yeah.
this little 1,200 square foot.
So 20 people living there.
20 people
She's
living there.
taking the money. He's
Yeah.
not making any money.
Yeah. And then so basically we had to get them removed. So we got them removed, got the house, got it under contract, bought it, remodeled the whole thing. Like basically brand new construction. I think it was like 1,220 square foot. We spent 135 on the remodel. So we were over $100 a square foot. Like
Yeah.
brand new everything. Sold it in 13 days, bought it for 305, put 135 in, sold it for 578.
Okay. A little over 100 grand then.
Yeah, the profit wasn't as great as we thought. I think we made about 30 or 40 grand.
Yeah.
But I'll do that all day. And we
Yeah.
turned it quick. We turned it in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Because we got the seller, since we got everyone out, the seller was on board with us starting demo like 2 weeks early. So
Okay.
it took a 6-week project. We were done on the market 4 weeks later.
And so tell me why it's important to get these projects done so quickly.
Well, we don't buy everything. Like obviously it's all cash terms, but we finance through what's called like a hard money loan. And they're just really high interest loans where there's not really any conditional underwriting or anything. You're just your name, the property, your credit score, a bank account with cash in it. They go, all right, here you go. You're paying 10% interest only on this house with your rehab and your loan. And so I think our payment on that, it wasn't too bad. I think it was like $4,200 a month. But if you go 3 months over budget or over the timeline, that's 12, 14 grand and you make 30 grand. Now your profit's cut in half.
That's right. Yeah. And so help me or tell people why or how you got over taking on hard money.
Oh yeah.
Or even debt and borrowing.
I think it
and
was like I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
I just wasn't scared. I had nothing to lose. But I would say that's the only way you can really leverage flipping or really leveraging your income is being able to leverage debt the right way. You just have to be smart about it. Like, be really honest with yourself on your numbers. Don't force a deal. And I think the biggest thing that I see that I've learned in real estate since I've done it with people that are investing is they try to be a full-time investor, but they don't have a value add.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can't run a project. They can't get contractors to do at lower cost work. They, aren't a killer broker. They can't source the deal. They, they have money.
Yeah.
And that's great, but money doesn't get the job done. You're just going to lose.
Okay. So when you're looking for capital partners, you actually want them to also have some other skill or
No, I just meant like people in general that I see get into investing because
Okay.
they don't have a value add. For me, if you're giving me money, that's all I want you to do.
Okay. You're
'Cause
talking
I
about
can do
it
it.
starting as an investor.
Yeah.
You're like, I've got money. I can be a real estate investor. But you're saying, which I agree with, you need
You need you need to bring a skill set to the table.
Yeah.
Like, to be, at least in my opinion, to be successful. It doesn't mean I'm right. Because you could give your money to me and be successful.
That's right.
Or someone else in the
You're just not going to
industry.
make as much money.
You just won't make as much money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, I have a lot of people that reach out to me of like, hey, do you have a deal? Do you have a deal? I'm like, well, if I have a great deal, I'm going to keep it.
Yeah.
Or if I have something, I have too many projects, then I'll sell it. But I'm trying to find the right way to word it. I'm kind of rambling a bit. But basically what I noticed is there's a lot of people that want to be investors, but they don't have a value add to it because they don't want to go talk to sellers. They can't run the contracts. They don't have the knowledge. So it's like all you do is have money, which is great, but you can't really flip if all you have is money.
That's right. Yeah. Flip is it's a active business.
Yeah. Well, you just there's a lot of knowledge to learn. And I think that's what's made us, be pretty successful in the short term. We've been doing it because our original skill set is sourcing the deal.
Yeah.
And then we learned how to run the contractors, and then, we've sold houses. So these are, 3 of the 4 pillars we have down pretty well.
Yeah.
It's just about the capital, but now, we have capital, but we'd rather use other people's money to make money.
That's right. And so I think that's where people get hung up is they think they have to have the money to invest in real estate, but this isn't true.
No.
And really your success and your ability to make money opens up when you think differently about how money works.
Yeah.
And this is the message that I'm trying to tell people. And this was even a big hurdle for me when I switched into hotels, was raising money because we took all of our active income and used that to go invest in our short-term rentals. And that's a strategy, right? If you're a W-2 employee or a consultant, or you've got some active business, you're a broker, you're a realtor.
Well, you need active money all the time, no matter what. But if you start losing that in this and you're trying to run a business with active money, things are going to fall because you still need money.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And a lot of people they think passive income on real estate, but really if you're a full-time investor, you generally need an active income, an active business of some
Flipping,
kind.
wholesaling, something to
Yeah,
keep money
or
coming
there's a
in.
lot of content creators out there that
Yeah,
that's their
content.
active.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's a great way.
Yeah, and so, but getting over the hurdle of raising money or quote unquote taking people's money,
Yeah.
but if you have a good deal
Yeah.
and you believe in it, then you're actually giving them the opportunity to make more money.
Oh yeah, I think it's same thing in the beginning. It's that kind of that delusional mindset of like, oh, but then you have a proof of concept. You're like, oh no, you get it. Like if I could go back and get into real estate again 5 years ago, what I would do differently is I would just focus on wholesaling initially, and I would just become like the deal finder.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what I became later. But because if you really, how I see real estate is it goes around two things. There's really two things in the ecosystem. Everything else kind of goes around that and is feeding off those two things, and it's the deal.
Yep.
And it's cash.
Yep.
So if you have cash for the deal, you can figure something out.
That's right.
So like if you don't have money right now and you want to get into flipping or you want to get into development or you want to get into rentals, like if someone came to me with a killer deal and was like, hey, you flip this and give me a percentage, done.
Easy.
Or like, here's a $50,000 assignment fee. Like I've had assignment fees that were like $150,000 for one deal.
Yeah.
You know, I never thought I would make money like that.
Yeah.
I had one that closed a week and a half ago. It was a $100,000 assignment fee. I got it signed when I was in Mexico. And then I sold another one in Kirkland, where I had two in Kirkland in the last like 45 days that were $50,000 fees.
Yep.
When we booked, we just spent 3 weeks in Tulum. I told my wife, I mean, I'm trying to create the lifestyle I've always wanted. I'm not trying, I'm creating the lifestyle.
That's right. Yeah.
So I'm sitting on my couch in my condo and I booked this 3-week retreat and it's like $15,000. And I look at it and I'm like, all right, just do it, because that's the life you want. And then so I did it. And then I looked at her and I was like, I'm going to make this money back while at least 3x while we're in Tulum.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I'm on the flight to Tulum and I have this flip in Kirkland. I'm going to keep. And then I keep getting offers to sell it. And I'm like, no, I don't want to sign it. I don't want to sign it. And then we got an offer for like $50,000. And I was like, all right, well, my take home with my partners is 50%.
Yeah.
So on the flight to Tulum, I make 25 grand.
Yeah.
While I'm out there, I get another one for 100. I sell 2 of my flips. I think I made like 120 that month while I was gone.
Yeah.
Which is
insane.
Nuts. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. And I think this is another thing that I've been preaching too is you're living off of these bigger hits of money, right? And so the real money in real estate is made off of the appreciation or the forcing of the value, creating value. Exactly. It's not off of the passive cash flow.
No,
the passive cash flow is really, once you realize the passive cash flow is actually the bottom tier benefit of real estate.
People don't live on that money.
Or
it goes right back into the property.
Exactly. The especially in higher cost of living areas,
like Seattle,
Kirkland, Bellevue, all these, San Diego, Scottsdale, like you make your money on the big hit, either on the refi or the exit, or like you're doing with the wholesale. But with the wholesale, there's no tax benefits, there's no equity, there's none of that, but that's your active business.
It's just quick cash.
And then that goes into your deal.
Flipping and holds. Yeah.
That's right.
And then eventually development. So that's the company now is Ace Homes. That's the flipping development company. And it's going to end up being the wholesale company too. We're going to rebrand it. But that's the goal for all that quick cash is put into flips. Or if like we're wholesaling, we find these, hey, I found a flip, it's going to be a 300 grand profit, or I could wholesale it for 100 grand. Maybe we should flip that one. And that's kind of like how that conversation started.
That's right. Yeah. And so I wanted to ask too, because I'm really big on like busting people's limiting beliefs with especially with real estate, and like people get stuck and they think they need money and they don't know what to buy or how to buy. But a lot of it I think is just like in their own heads. And so when you looked at that Marysville fentanyl house, like tell me how you choose your houses and how you get past the current state.
I think that's probably a benefit to how I grew up, right? Like our houses weren't like that, but I mean, I'm used to that stuff. So I mean, that stuff doesn't really scare me. And I think I get really unemotional about it. So it's all numbers and timelines. Like I think that's the benefit of how I got into real estate and the time I put in. It's like now I can look at a deal and know right away. I'll underwrite it. I know how much my contractors are going to be because of all the flips we did last year. So it's just straight emotional. I looked at that deal. It's like, all right, we have this at 305. All right. My budget was 90, went $45,000 over budget. But it was because it was a drug house and can't really sell a bad product if you're trying to build a brand. And then looked at the ARV, the resale value at the comps, and I was like, yeah, I mean, we can make money on that.
Yeah.
And didn't even think twice.
And so how do you sift through the needles and the mold or whatever might be on the surface?
Yeah.
Because I've seen Thatch, you know, he posts videos about this too,
love
right?
If I go in a house and it smells like that, I'm happy. Like, I'm not even joking. Like, if I go in and it smells like pee or I see shit, I'm like, I'll buy it. I'm take it.
It smells like money.
Yeah,
is what it smells like.
I think to me, I'm just so emotionally detached from it that it doesn't even genuinely cross my mind at all.
Yeah. And so tell me about your mentors, because we mentioned Thatch, and then who was the other one?
James Stainert.
James Stainert. Tell me about one, what you felt like or how you made that decision to invest, and then like you spent some money.
So I remember I had a friend, Tanner Litchfield. He moved to Utah, but he does really well now. But basically he introduced me to Thatch, and I've seen Thatch on TikTok and Instagram like everybody has. And I went to his big event in Seattle, and I never met him. I just went on a whim, like last minute. It was my second year in real estate, and it was the biggest year I'd had. I made like 300 that year, which to me was like crazy money, right?
Yep.
But I wanted to scale, so I go to this meeting, this event, and it's all about abundance and mindset and financial freedom and what it takes. And you meet these people that are doing bigger things, and I've always looked up to Thatch, so I took a meeting to be in the most elite level. I was like, why not? So I get there, and I'm in this meeting talking with him, and he just had a very similar story to mine. Like I could tell he was who I wanted to emulate him, like what he had become. Obviously different, but I saw someone that came from nothing, became extremely successful, very down to earth guy, very radiant. Like I still have him saved in my phone. It's Thatch the Light with like the hands up, because the people, they treat him like he's Jesus.
A little bit,
he's my friend, you know, but it's, so I saw that and I was like, well, who else to better learn something from than this guy? So I'd been one day at this event, spent an hour with the guy, walk over, it's $30,000 for 12 months. And I'm like, I got 120 grand in my bank account that I'm living on after all the work I've done. That's what I have in that account from all the businesses or whatever. And I go, fuck it. And I just do it. And then I didn't look back 12 months later. And it wasn't everything I wanted it to be, wasn't everything I expected it to be, but it was like, it changed my life.
Yeah.
Just from, I'd say the biggest thing is the people I met in that group.
Yep.
And how he shifted my mindset.
Yeah.
To be really like buy into like spirituality, abundance, getting rid of lack, things of that nature.
Yeah, I've been considering joining the Inner Circle because he's promoting it again. And I love that. She actually agreed to be on the podcast.
Oh, really?
I just got to nail him down.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I've been considering going to the Inner Circle too, and I know that joining communities changed my life.
Yeah.
Right, and a lot of
Big
that.
time.
Yeah, and a lot of it, it's the most money you've ever spent, especially in real
I'll
estate.
do it again.
Yeah. I'm gonna do it every year. You have to have a budget for these, but the biggest benefit really is the people that you meet.
Yep.
And the community and like all these different people that are doing different things that you can lean on.
Springboard family. It's all just like, man, I've never met a community where like everyone's just a really good person. Like everyone there is just a really good person.
That was a big eye opener for me when I joined because, when you're doing a lot of flips and a lot of different construction, you meet a lot of different people.
Oh yeah. There's not everyone's good people, man. There's
Exactly.
a lot of bad people.
There's a lot of bad people. And I think we were talking earlier too about when you first got introduced to real estate, you had said something along the lines of, I was looking at all these people doing real estate and
they weren't very smart.
They weren't very smart.
I was like, you're making all this money. You make more than me. I feel like I'm pretty smart. I work pretty hard. I feel like if I got into this, maybe I could do pretty well.
Yeah. And I think that's true for a lot of us is, sometimes we can be too smart for our own good. I know that I'm guilty of that. I come from an engineering background. Like I was always told, oh, you're a smart kid. Right. And I think sometimes that gets in my way of like overthinking things. Over analytical. It means I'm really good at looking at deals.
Yep.
Right. It means I'm really good at looking at deals.
Analysis paralysis.
Yeah. And luckily I've gotten over the analysis paralysis, but in terms of like being able to figure out how to scale quickly, move to decisions quicker. Right. I go through phases on that, but I think being in community, you meet really great people. They help you get over your fear. They help you along the process. And then like the money is really what it ends up being.
It's commitment.
It's a commitment.
They're like weed out the people that aren't serious.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so people that are balking at the cost of something, what it really does is it creates the quality of group in there. So it's a filter for
Doers.
doers,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So money isn't always an indicator of
No.
success and everything, but usually in mastermind communities, it helps filter out people that aren't serious about it. Yeah.
100%.
So,
because like when I was making the decision, it was bang, like in.
yeah.
And I think that is very common, that if you're not serious, you won't do it.
Yeah. And have you tried to calculate the ROI?
Oh, it's way more. Yeah. I mean, that year I tried to model a business that like made me make less money, but it wasn't their fault. But I mean, I've done deals with people from Inner Circle that, I've made 3x on just one deal. Or like, I'm going to plug my friend's collar company, William Thing in Virtual Staff Labs. I met William. We joined Inner Circle the same day. I hired his new VA cold call company like 2 months ago. And dude, I made like $200,000 or $300,000 in assignment fees from that one caller. I've got my Newport Hills flip, my rent and flip from that caller. So I probably made around $500,000 from his call company that I pay the caller $1,600 a month for.
Yeah. And that's off of that initial $30,000
investment. I met him. Our like Vanna Jarback's a huge wholesaler. We were in Inner Circle together. She's a killer. I think her business did $1 million, $2 million last year. So, just the networking of people, I have a friend that I met at the same time, Dante. He owns a Telio, which is a construction recruiting company. I mean, his company, I don't know the exact numbers. He's probably doing 12 to 20 million this year. And it's like, I don't know people like that. You know, I would have never met people like that. So they kind of like just expand your horizons, or being around someone like that's, 100 millionaire, it's this is real. You get to touch it.
That's right.
You get to touch it.
That's right.
Oh, it's not like something I see on TV, or it's real. Like, and then you go, I can do it.
It feels normal.
Yeah. It was like, I've been around Thatch and I love Thatch, but I'm like, I can do that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think that's what he wants.
Yeah. That's the point.
Right. And that's my other mentors that I have. That's what they want.
Yeah.
It is normal. It is attainable. It is, they might be a few steps ahead, a few chapters ahead.
Yeah.
But like, you are capable and able to do that. And I think a lot of us have a lot of self-doubt. We have a lot of limiting beliefs.
Yep.
And really the thing that shifts, one is you talked about your mindset in rewiring your brain, like being so focused on changing your habits and all that. And then number two is we ruminate. So yes, we need our minds to like create and manifest and all that, but we can also get trapped in loops.
Yeah.
Unless we're in community, unless we're around.
Pull you out of it.
That's right. And they kind of smack you around and say you're being an idiot. But
what are you doing?
You need to go put yourself in community.
Yeah.
You need to go put yourself in these rooms to be able to do it. So
definitely.
Tell me about, so I introduced you as Brian Pate.
That's me.
But you're Paradigm Pate on Instagram. And so tell me about Paradigm Pate. Who's Paradigm?
So it's from that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I just kind of took it ever from there. But basically, the paradigm shift is something's been done a certain way for X amount of time. Something comes around and changes everything. And that's the paradigm. So I look at my family and decided that I'm going to be the paradigm shift for my family. I just made the choice in my head that I want to be that example for kids that grew up like me, or kids that are struggling in single parent homes, or people even worse conditions. Like there's people that had it way worse than me, but just be an example of someone that, hey, you can really do this. You don't need to go to college. You need to, if you bet on yourself, you believe on yourself, you can bootstrap, become a self-made millionaire from, just self-development. So I just always wanted to be the role model I wish I had when I was younger. And so that's where Paradigm came in. So it's almost like I call it a self-fulfilling prophecy. So that's basically where that came from.
That's right. That's right. And are you involved in any organizations helping kids? Or
No, I want to. That's a big want of mine one day to do. So I need to do it.
But you're sharing content.
I share content. I obviously like even in our companies, I look for people with like a similar background that we hire and train. Like there's this guy that's a closer for the wholesale company named Chris Jabush, and I met him like 2 years ago, and he was just hustling. He wasn't making money, but he was just hustling, door knocking in the rain. He was in Springboard, did everything he needed to do, wasn't making any money. And I talked with him, heard his story. We just clicked right away. And I was like, man, just come work for me. Come work with me and you'll just start destroying it. And the guy, you know, he's killing it. He's making multiple six figures, working at our company now. And yeah, so you just look for people like-minded and try to help them, you know.
And so how do you make the decision to like bring somebody on, you know, because it sounds like I think a lot of us that are entrepreneurs, it's like grind until you die mentality,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like we can do it all ourselves and put it all on our back. We're gonna keep trying to find more ways to make money. You started a bunch of different businesses. And so tell me about how you've like decided to bring people on to help you and
Yeah.
what that mindset shift is like.
Yeah, I kind of look for like, are they a really good person? Cool. Do they work really hard? Cool. Are their morals aligned? Yeah. Are the values aligned? Cool. I can teach them everything else
Yeah.
and create the systems in place. So it's really like obviously, and can I make money with this person? That's like number one, and then everything else follows. So I just look for good people, honestly, and for roles that need to be felt. Like, have we hired people that didn't work out? Yeah.
Yeah.
That happens a few times. Has it ruined relationships? Yeah.
Yeah.
Have people taken money? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just part of the game. But I think the only way to grow is to fail, and you fail by trying and doing, and then eventually you'll succeed. And you just can't. I always tell myself all the time, like, you just can't quit. You know, like flipping super hard, or when's the next wholesale deal gonna come? When's the next? And then you just get rid of the lack and go, hey, it's gonna come. Just relax and focus on what you can do. And then next thing I know, boom, it's right there.
That's right.
So it's like that with people or companies, and I'm still learning. It's not perfect at all. Trust me. Like, I'm gonna leave here and I'm gonna have 30 missed phone calls, and
Yeah.
it's gonna be stressful. But that's the growth.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're saying is getting rid of the lack
Mhm.
and creating your reality by the reputation that you've created too, right?
Yeah, taking
And
care of people.
taking care of people. I think a lot of people underestimate how much that has an impact on,
Yeah.
you know, they don't know how good of a person they are even, and how
Mhm.
much that actually creates goodwill and that the universe is going to provide for them. There's going to be
Yeah.
deals that come in or whatever it is.
Referrals,
So,
deals. I call them broker funnels. I'll have brokers bring me deals
yeah.
just because, like, oh, I saw you on Instagram. I want to work with you. I love the hustle. I love what you do. I'm like, yeah, man, let's do it. You know?
All right, Brian, this has been so great. I really appreciate you coming by. Very first episode. Where can people get in touch with you? How can they follow you?
Yeah, I would say first, thanks for having me. It was really cool. Hopefully I did good.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, on Instagram, Paradigm Pate. I have a YouTube I don't post on, but it's Paradigm Pate. TikTok, Paradigm Pate. I'll be better at content this year, but mainly Instagram, Paradigm Pate.
That's right. All right. Well, appreciate you, man. And we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Peace.